there's this idea that there's a fundamental balancing in every moment, in every way, of compassion and judgment. And compassion is the part of us that reaches out, that goes towards the other, that gives. And judgment is the part of us that has boundaries, has limits, says no, right? So compassion says yes and judgment says no. And I think it's often easy for us to see how compassion can be good. But the tradition teaches, the Jewish tradition teaches that they exist in balance, and so an overabundance of either one is actually equally harmful. One classic example is if your child runs into the street, if you gently bring them back and say, oh, we don't do that, then they won't understand how important it is not to run into the street. So if you're using too much compassion in that situation, you're actually not being truly compassionate, right? So the kind of sharp judgment of a parent kneeling down and saying, we don't run into the street, it's very dangerous. You can feel that energy of the no, right? That's the energy of the left side of judgment. But it's being used in service of compassion, right? And this is something that I just use throughout my own life and also in my teaching, because I find that so often, thinking of a problem or a question through a lens of balancing compassion and judgment is very foundational, and it just gives me more and more over the years. I mean, it helped me so much when I was dating and trying to figure out when it was time to leave a relationship and how to do that in an ethical way. And I mean, understanding that to be 100% saying yes is not actually compassionate to anyone, that it's really that balance was so important in realizing that sometimes saying no or ending something is actually the kindest thing to do for everyone. If you know that that's what needs to happen, then that's what needs to happen, So it was a huge lesson at that moment. And then, falling in love with my husband and getting married and building a life together and having our 2 children who are now 4 and almost 7, it's taken on this whole other life of this question of compassion and judgment, and how do we each balance our own needs as a family? How do we educate and raise our children in the best way? I mean, the questions are different, but the principles are actually the same. And I can just see that as my life goes on, I think I'm going to be coming back to that idea daily, pretty much for the foreseeable future.